Toronto Mayor Rob Ford is receiving support from an unlikely source. Union boss Sid Ryan has long been critical of the mayor, but now he's defending Ford when it comes to a court order that kicks him out of office. Ontario CUPE President Sid Ryan joins us on the phone from Windsor, Ontario. Sid, good to talk to you this morning. I was surprised when I saw that tweet where you said that you thought that going to court to dump Ford was a strategic error. What did you mean?
Well, a couple of things. First off, I'm the president of the Ontario Federation of Labour.
My apologies.
That's okay. I don't want CUPE getting on my butt over this one. And then secondly, I wouldn't call it support for Ford. I mean, I think I'm looking at the infraction and saying, you know, is this serious enough that we have to go into the courts to remove him from his job as the mayor? I think what we're doing here is turning him into a martyr. I mean, I disagree with Ford and his policies. I disagree with the way he's running the city. And we should be defeating Ford on his ideas, on his policies, on his you know, the way he's running the affairs of the city. But going into the courts on a fairly minor technicality, to then say that you now lose your job and we overturn a decision made by the electorate only 2 years ago, I think is wrong. And, you know, and I'd say that about any mayor that got removed. And this is not like the case, for example, in Montreal, where there's clearly corruption involved, or even the situation down in London, Ontario, where there's alleged corruption involved. Nobody's alleging corruption here. What they're basically saying is a technicality that he didn't pocket any money himself, and given it's a minor infraction, and the judge, I guess, is left with no choice but to either rule yay or nay in terms of him keeping his job. There's something clearly wrong with the legislation when we can remove elected officials for minor infractions. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and Sid, is it fair to say that you want to win fair and square and that the left has done themselves a disservice by pushing this forward?
Well, I don't know how you could say it's the left. I mean, you know, we make broad brushstrokes here too readily. There's no question about it. There was an individual that that is left of centre who pushed it, but I wouldn't say that the left were in behind it. But you're right. I want to defeat Ford at the polls and not make a martyr out of him. And I'll just tell you, like anecdotally, I've checked with a few people that aren't really involved in politics, but they observe it from the outside kind of stuff, and they all basically said we felt sorry for the guy, the way he conducted himself at the press conference. It looks like the penalty was far too severe. It's almost like capital punishment for a minor traffic infraction, you know. So I think he's gaining and will gain a lot of support with his base and grow it over time as a result of this decision. And that's why I think it's a strategic error. People may be rejoicing in the fact right now that he's about to get turfed from office. But I don't think that's going to be very long lasting, and I think at the end of the day, Ford will come back stronger than ever, and that's not what we want. We want to be able to defeat him at the polls, but defeat him on his ideas and his policies and the way he's conducting affairs of the city.
Sid, do you think that the support for unions in general is flagging a little bit right now, given that people are upset about the teachers and their actions right now? People are even upset about the NHL situation, and that's not necessarily a union issue, but people are saying, you know what, let's just get on with things. I mean, there's always, anytime there's conflict, people get upset about it. So when there's conflict between different levels of government, people get upset about it. At this moment in time, yeah, there's conflict because there's a huge dispute going on that potentially impacts upon hundreds of thousands of children. And of course, that impacts upon every working mother and father out there who's got kids in the school system. So, yeah, I mean, no question. There's times when people do have to stand up for their rights as well, and say, we've got some basic rights, just like the mayor's got some rights. People need to be also aware that sometimes conflict exists for a reason, and life is not a bowl of cherries where we all get along with each other. Sometimes we have disagreements and honest disagreements, and we have laws in place to be able to govern how that relationship is conducted. In their case, people have got the right to strike was taken away from them by a government undemocratically so, and then they go shut down the legislature and we can't even debate the piece of legislation. So union members are frustrated as well. You got a federal government stepping in that unilaterally takes the right to strike away from workers, even in the private sector. Never mind in the public sector when they interfered in the bargaining between CUPE, CAW, and Air Canada, which is a private corporation. So, do you think all the advances that you might have seen with Occupy, for instance, in terms of people unifying for a particular cause, have been now negated? I don't think so. I think the victory that came out of Occupied was I think that the pictorially, in a way, demonstrated for people the disparity between, the ultra rich and sort of the rest of us, and that permeates through all of society. You know, just recently, the government brings in a budget last year. They ask public sector workers and others to cut social programs to pay down the deficit, but those earning over $250,000 a year, or corporations, were not asked to pony up a penny. And there's a great unfairness in all of that, and I think people see it. Even Barack Obama in the United States, he runs a campaign essentially saying I'll raise taxes on those earning over $250,000 a year, and gets elected in a much more right-wing state than what we've got up here in Canada. And yet, we can't get our politicians, not any of them from any political party, that talk about raising taxes on those earning over $250,000 to help to pay down that deficit. After all, they did get massive tax breaks in years gone by, and maybe now it's time that they ponied up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, Sid. Sid, thanks so much for your time. Safe travels.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
President of the Ontario Federation of Labour, Sid Ryan, joining us on the line from Windsor, Ontario.